Hey, what's up? Hello, I hope you all are doing well. Today we have a fun little video for you where we're going to talk about people who hated things that we love. Together we are going to read for you 8 one-star reviews of books that we starred 5 stars on Goodreads. And I love these type of things. I love when the celebrities read the mean tweets about themselves. I love when authors read bad reviews of their own books. I love it when people read the 1-star Amazon reviews of something they just bought that they love. So this is totally going to be wonderful.
What's going to be even better about this is that I picked out which books Leslie gave 5 stars, and I'm going to like read the ones that I chose for her. So we don't know what the other person chose.
Right.
So you're going to be going into this and I'm just going to be throwing stuff at you. So this is going to be like a first reaction. And
it might not even be a book that we remember giving 5 stars to or that we did years ago. You're fortunate. I filtered a lot of those out.
Thanks.
So like, who's to say if we still think it's worth 5 stars now?
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so the first book that I picked out for you, you read it a long time ago. This was definitely the oldest of your 5 stars. I tried to, you know, err on the more recent, but I chose I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith.
Okay.
You've mentioned that book enough times, so I figured you would still remember it enough to be potentially offended.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want you to feel offended.
I also watched the movie.
Okay, so first review that I found of this, each of us have a few reviews that we've selected to read. So this one is, no, 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 no. What was I thinking of buying a book without checking the sample first based solely on recommendations from other readers? If this book had not been written in first-person present tense, I probably would have enjoyed it, based on the little I could tolerate before giving up, but it's a big nope. The writing style is so obnoxious, I just can't move past it to enjoy the story. So they tried to listen to it on audiobook, DNF'd it after 2 separate attempts, and they couldn't get past the first chapter, even after it had been sitting on their TBR shelf for years, but...
Alright. Just an angsty teenager. If you're not down for angsty teenager with a not great home life, why are you bothering? That sounds like the crux of this person's problem.
Yeah. I fail to understand why this is regarded as a classic and continues to be held in such affection. I found it shallow, tiresome, and tedious. Definitely a teenage read.
I mean, it's tedious. I won't begrudge them that.
But you're like, I love tedium. And another person said, this hasn't aged well.
That's probably true. I haven't really read it since 2012.
It gets worse.
Oh, good.
Simpering females.
Oh.
That need rescuing and gallant men trying to save them with money and gifts. The one redeeming quality is the father is a writer with writer's block, and his daughter is steadfast on also becoming a writer. Apart from that, this was dull.
Are you familiar with the time period?
Yeah, when does the book take place?
I don't know, back in the day. She lives in a castle.
And when was it written? Like, I obviously didn't look at
Before? It was written before.
Yes, so clearly hasn't aged well. I just love the fact they said simpering females that need rescuing and gallant men trying to save them with money and gifts.
Jesus Lord. I get that these people don't love this type of book. That's all I'm getting from this.
I have one more review, one more 1-star to share with you for this one. I want my 4 hours back. Grr, I persisted with this novel for far too long. It is laboriously written, moves in real time, and goes nowhere! Exclamation point. The most selfish characters win in the end, and the rest fall by the wayside. This may reflect accurately on real life, but I don't find it inspirational in fiction.
Is all fiction supposed to be inspirational to you?
Apparently. I think they just really wanted something more uplifting.
Well then don't pick this!
They want their 4 hours back.
It's kind of uplifting. Okay, you should know by at least the second hour if you're in a happy. Just stop.
So those are some thoughts on I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. And why did you love it? Like, these people...
It was not loud and aggressively important. Katie always said, and Katie was the one to recommend this, was... it was quietly beautiful, which is exactly true. It's calm. She figures it out in her own life. She goes through a lot of like mental jumping jacks and calisthenics to try and figure out how she's gonna live and be happy and deal with her family. And it's just not, it's not brash. It's very quiet. It's an introvert's book. Maybe all of you are extroverts who are having a problem with it.
Maybe.
I don't think there are simpering females, but like, girl, that's the age. That's the age that it's in. You had no recourse. Of course the men have to save them with their money and their power. They had no rights! Anyway.
Alright, my turn, I guess, for my first one.
Well.
What'd you choose for me?
Are you familiar with the book called Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
It's, where is it?
Do you want to know the names and the years of these people? The first one is from Ian in 2007.
Oh, I did have the people's names on here, but I didn't read them because I didn't feel it was necessary. But
a coworker loaned me this book, which he picked up in an airport bookstore, saying it was a quick read.
It's true. It is a quick read.
It was. I found it a pastiche of cliched small-town characters. It's in vogue nowadays to have small towns full of deep, dark, terrible secrets. The book was full of unlikable characters, parens, including the narrator, meaningless sex, vomit, and purple prose.
Purple prose?
It was apparently a nominee for Best First Novel Award. My guess is it did not win. I honestly think the only reason this book saw light was because the author happens to be a writer for Entertainment Weekly.
Wow, that's harsh. Like, just saying that she only got this because she already had connections with Entertainment Weekly. I mean, I'm sure that happens with some people, but with Gillian Flynn, she's a good writer. So I think that it was well-deserved that her book was published and recognized as a good debut novel. I don't know what purple prose means.
Either.
I don't know if that's a term, like, I'm like, this person is clearly more sophisticated than me, just based on the words that they were using in their review. So maybe that's a term I'm not familiar with, but I mean, this book was coming out in, I read it in 2013 for the first time.
This review is from 2007, so I guess it's been out for a while. Either way, you read it in 2013.
Yeah, and I thought it was great. Like, it's dark, and yeah, there's unlikable characters, but it's one of those books where the unlikable characters really, it adds to the tension of the story. And I know some people, you know, don't want to read books without likable characters, but I'm okay to read books with unlikable characters if it, like, makes sense in the context of the story, and you still have, like, the narrator is a very, very flawed character, but you can still, you still want to root for her because all the shit that's happening around her is just insane. Anyway.
Do you want to hear what Linda number 1 has to say?
Oh, Linda number 1, yeah.
I decided to read Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn prior to the release of the HBO series. The result? I will boycott the HBO version.
Oh!
I suffer from chronic fatigue of overwrought, quote, thriller novels. This book is chock full of some despicable and overly salacious details that turn my stomach. I understand the world of suffering, but this book takes it a step further to a dark and twisted tale. There is not a woman in this book, parens, and we are talking about an entire town, who could boast of good character. The alcoholic and continuously drunk protagonist is laughable. In a real world, she wouldn't survive. This book is gross, salacious, and without any redeeming message. All books don't have happy endings. I understand that. But most books don't leave me feeling completely and utterly revolted for having read them. Miss Flynn can write, and it's a shame she wastes her talents on this crap. Hashtag no bueno.
Hashtag no bueno.
Hashtag
Linda.
murder. Hashtag foul. Hashtag revolting. Hashtag gross. It goes on. I won't read you all of them, but the very last one is hashtag this is not Big Little Lies.
Wow. Okay, well, clearly she's a big Little Lies fan.
Yeah.
And Sharp Objects was just, like, too dark and gross for her. I think for me, it was one of the first books that I read like that was so shocking. So when I read it, I was like, holy shit, this book is crazy. And that's why it stayed with me. And I did watch the HBO show as well, and I thought it was a good reflection of what I felt and saw in the book.
You weren't as put off as Linda.
No, clearly I was, like, digging this book way more than Linda. This was a muy bueno for me.
Well, our second Linda says, the copyright date on this book is 2006.
Wow, okay, so it is actually from that long ago.
Where did 11 years go? This was a library discard I picked up for $1. That's about all it's worth in my opinion. I didn't like this book. I didn't like Gone Girl. The movie was better. Seems Sharp Objects is the longest predictable short book I've ever read. Some reviewers said they were scared.
You're telling me Linda predicted the ending of that book?
Mostly I was repulsed. What kind of mind even thinks up this stuff to write? Sad, disconnected, damaged describes a lot of these characters. No awards for best supporting roles here either. Not even one of them could shine a dim light through its unfolding wretchedness. I think I need a shower. So, serial killing is hereditary? A disease? Okay, no thanks, Gillian Flynn.
Wow. Some of these people have good prose when my reviews are just like, you know, like I'm just...
Here's some thoughts.
Yeah, here's some thoughts. Definitely, blah, 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 you know. Cool, another person who just was not into that, but that's okay.
No bueno.
It's my favorite thing that's happened today so far. So yeah, I guess that book is from way long ago. And it just really started to gain steam more recently, but good to know. Your next book is a book that I also did not like.
Oh, great.
But then you
I know
it.
exactly which one it is.
It is Never Let Me Go
by Kazuo Ishiguro.
That's correct. So of course I had to go through
I don't know why I didn't expect this.
Because I was reading these reviews and I was like, yeah, that's right. And these people gave it 1. I gave it 2. And these people gave it 1 star.
Oh,
so
generous of you.
So Madeline said, you know those random stock characters in sci-fi action movies? The ones who never get any names or any lines? They're always spending their precious few minutes of screen time getting shoved out of the way as the hero hurtles desperately down a hallway, or watching from a safe distance as a climactic fight goes on, or diving out of the way whenever a murderous cyborg smashes through the office window.
Cyborg's great.
Have you ever wondered what those people's lives are like? Have you ever thought to myself, man, this movie's interesting and all, but I want to know more about that guy who owned the hotel where Sarah Connor hid from the Terminator. I bet he leads a fascinating life. Believe me, he doesn't. Imagine if someone decided to write a book about this kind of person. The result is Never Let Me Go. Yeah, so much sci-fi potential. Like, that was not the sci-fi I was there for, and clearly Madeline thought the same thing as me, was like, oh, okay, this is just about the boring, dull people on the sidelines.
I feel like this person doesn't understand looking at smaller, tinier, non-hard-hitting stuff about people's lives. People don't like it when it's like the mundane details of everyday living. People want it to be fast and crazy all the time. Guess what, Madeline? This book isn't for you!
Clearly.
Neither is I Capture the Castle. Next! I can't imagine it gets better from here.
No. I mean, this is an excerpt from a longer review, and there was just 2 little paragraphs that I enjoyed. So, at the end, this person says, at the end, without giving anything away, I'll just say that Kathy and Tommy finally get all the answers about their school and what was actually going on, and they respond by going about their lives in exactly the same way as before. I mean, good God. Even though this is supposed to be some sort of more intellectual science fiction, I don't care. There's cloning and dystopian undertones, ergo, it is sci-fi. And I like my sci-fi loud, shiny, and dramatic with lots of explosions
so that's
and
the
computers
problem.
that talk. Yes. You think sci-fi and you want to go into it expecting, which is what I was hoping for. I was hoping for something a bit more, a bit better than that. I'd seen the movie.
Did she read the book? The whole point is that they have to go on about their lives exactly as before because there's now nothing that they can do about the situation.
This person wanted that big ending.
Okay, the big ending came before they got the answers. Hello.
I've got another one from Barry, who used to do YouTube videos. Barry Pierce, I believe. Barry. Yeah, that's his photo, if that reminds you.
Barry,
yeah. So his,
good.
Overall boring and not really enjoyable. The entire thing is just so juvenile and pedestrian.
Okay, are we an art history major?
Even Ishiguro's trademark amazing prose is completely absent from this work. You don't care for the characters who themselves are insults to cardboard cutouts. I liked that line, that's why that's in here. Definitely Ishiguro's worst book.
Okay.
I just like that it was an insult to cardboard cutouts. The next one says, and the story itself, OMG, even more boring and dull than the storytelling. A bunch of kids raised far away from their families so that their internal organs would be used for a transplant would be a great idea for a dystopian fiction novel, but instead the cool idea got wasted by a dull story with no apparent actions or thrills.
Okay, so you all have totally grown up as 100% self-actualized adults with no questioning about how you were raised or any of the intricacies of modern life and adult caretaking and why we're here as humans and what our purpose is. I get it. You don't want to read about that from anybody else.
I'm a bit angry at this book. It was a waste of my time. More? Boring for almost of the entire book. A nap would have been more refreshing.
Cool. Take a nap.
Oh my god, I took so many for this one.
I wonder why. Where's yours?
I definitely did. I don't know if I even wrote anything. This person said, blah, 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 little bit of a hint, blah, 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 small reveal, blah, 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 bigger reveal, bit of a shocker, extremely drawn out. Maybe to 50%, and I'm going to let it go.
And if it had all been revealed in the first 5 chapters, you would have hated it too. So. Those people are crazy. Do you remember a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson?
Yes. Do I still have that one around here
I want to be
somewhere?
clear that this book inspired Becca and her hiking dreams.
Here it is. I will say that if I were to read this book now, I don't think I would like it as much because I've read a lot more by Bill Bryson since then, and I've read a lot more like hiking stuff, and this is very much like a intro book. Like it introduces a lot of people to stuff, and then you sort of grow from here. So I feel like
let's see how you
I won't be as mad.
agree with these people. So Aaron in 2007 says that they recommend it for smug Turks, misanthropes, and tourists. It's been a busy couple weeks, so I thought I'd spend the last of my holiday indulging in a witty travelogue to set my feet itching. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong book. Years of declining the advice of the Byron worshippers, it seems, was not in vain. Bryson, not Byron.
Okay.
Very different person.
Why are we bringing Bryson or Byron into Bryson? Yeah.
I'm halfway through, and, like the author on The Daunting Trail, I'm unsure whether or not I can finish my task. Bryson sounds, to put it mildly, like a real jerk. He is smug and superior and spends most of the book complaining about his companions on the trail. A common motif is how everyone one, there's a typo in this, is a weekend hiker, and that he is a true back-to-nature type in comparison. True, some of his encounters sound less than thrilling, but even the obnoxious woman he encounters should get credit for tackling the trail by herself. Instead, she's unceremoniously ditched, in real life as well as print, by the man who couldn't even stomach the thought of going it alone. He enlists the companionship of a long-lost friend with whom he's proven incompatible on previous travel experiences. Said friend is then derided throughout the book for his sloth, roughness in manner, and lowbrow tastes. Meanwhile, Bryson paints himself as the guardian of the trail, criticizing the Park Service along with all who venture through her woods. I'm still waiting for even a glimpse of the much-vaunted Bryson wit and charm to show itself. At the moment, there's nothing more than stereotypical blue stater, putting himself on a pedestal while looking down his nose at everyone else. It's not attractive, and it makes for a very frustrating read. I wish he'd stayed home.
Yeah, I read this one so long ago that it's hard for me to remember like exactly his attitude in this book, but I do know in more recent reads of his that sometimes his attitude does annoy me, and so that's why I feel like if I read this book now, I would get a different vibe. Yeah. So like definitely don't hate on this person's thought on this, but yeah, they're probably being like a bit more aggressive than how it would actually be. Yeah, you really picked the $5 word reviews.
Well, Steve in 2008 says, at the dawn of the 20th century, journalists, travel writers, social workers, and adventure seekers descended upon the Appalachian Mountains in droves, expecting to find a land of violent, uneducated hillbillies whose primary occupations were distilling illegal alcohol and killing one another. That they were mistaken in their assumptions has been demonstrated time and time again in both popular and academic literature. Almost 100 years later, writer Bill Bryson took a walk on the Appalachian Trail and expected to find the exact same thing. That he did not walk into a scene out of the movie Deliverance seems to genuinely surprise him, but not to the point that he refrains from insulting Appalachian Mountain people over and over again, as if stereotypes of the ultra-violent hillbilly are utterly true and representative of the entire Appalachian population. This book is amusing on some levels, if only because I've hiked the AT and identify with some of the hardships he faces, and that he rightly criticizes the National Park Service for its poor stewardship of the lands is forcibly seized from Appalachian farmers. Otherwise, this book is of scant value, unless, of course, one needs paper to aid in starting a fire or to make a nice set of paper dolls.
I actually enjoyed that review. It was, like, well done in terms of just really painting a picture, you know? And I feel like my knowledge about the Appalachian Trail has also massively increased since I read this book, and so I might agree with Steve on some of the stuff about, like, the stewardship of the trail. To be fair, he wrote that a while ago now.
In 2008.
Yeah, so things have shifted a bit, but that was good. That was good. Doesn't make me angry.
Okay. Well, not Rebecca, but Rebecca, in 2010 said, I'm likelier to finish the AT myself than this excruciating book. I didn't think it was possible to spend so much time out there and not come back with a handful of good anecdotes and character studies, but Bryson spends most of all of his chapters complaining or snarking on the way to women he encounters along the way. What the hell? I made it a bit over halfway through. Maybe I should skip large chunks and read a paragraph here and there through the rest of it to mirror Bryson's AT cat hopping. I've liked other books of his, though. What a shame. All lowercase. All right, you know, I'm just gonna let those be. I'm gonna let them be. I do not have any real ill will towards these people. Their reviews entertained me, if anything, at this point. And that's what we're here for. Entertainment value. I have a feeling Nevermore is gonna come up in here, and I don't like it.
You're lucky it does not, actually.
Oh, thank goodness.
What does come up, though, is a prayer for Owen Meany.
Oh, alright. Okay, this makes sense. Let's hear it.
I can honestly say this is one of the worst novels I've ever read.
Is this your review?
No! John Irving's writing was terrible, and his rambling, seemingly unedited style was the death of A Prayer for Owen Meany. This novel is about two boys, blah blah blah, it kind of like gives a background. The other boy is Owen Meany, whose small size, high-pitched voice, and uncanny religious fervor make him an outsider. Owen, as John discovers, believes he is God's instrument and has all of these abnormalities so he can carry on the mission for God for him. The plot at its core wasn't terrible, and I was curious to see how it was going to turn out, but yeah.
But yeah.
The best part of this was I can honestly say this is one of the worst novels I've ever read.
I mean, I understand. A lot of people don't like this book. It is very dense. Owen is very irritating, and he does go off, John Irving, on a lot of long thoughts and rants and ideas about religion and life. And yeah, I get it.
The next one. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Okay,
really?
I don't think we need to go that hard at it.
Owen Meany's dialogue is printed in all caps.
Yeah, it's a literary device.
All of the time. Did any Christian reader truly miss that huge literary clue pointing to the custom of printing Jesus' dialogues in bright red in the New Testament portion of many of the Christian Bible versions? Do you know about this? I was not raised in a religious household, so this does not mean anything to me. Does that mean anything to you? Vietnam was Buddhist, not Christian, by the way. Quite an ironic intersection of unthinking didactic beliefs on so many levels. Whatever. What a bore this book is to read.
Go back to grad school.
Somebody else said, I could not possibly hate a book more.
Did you read it for school?
Maybe. I don't think they say, but I hate John Irving's need to insert himself into books as the primary character.
Oh, yeah, that is true. He does do that with this.
That's not good writing. That's being a pompous ass.
Ooh!
On top of that, writing Owen in all caps gave me this feeling he was screaming at me the entire book.
He is. That's literally the point.
Which stylistically was a terrible choice. It served to make me hate the main character instead of sympathize with him.
You're not supposed to like him all the time.
There was nothing about Owen that I liked. Not his obnoxious voice, not his total lack of personality, except to be a harbinger of some catastrophe. That was stupid in the end, I might add. Not his abusive relationship with Hester, none of it. So they did say that they read this book in high school and have attempted to reread it twice since, along with a few of Irving's other books, and that they can honestly say that they would rather read Twilight than have to read this tripe. Like Moby Dick, I cannot understand how this book became a classic unless you like people who aren't religious finding religion because a kid who entered the army was right that he would die young.
I'm still thinking about that thing with the red text in the Bible.
Someone else said, I cannot remember the last time I so bitterly regretted taking time out of my life to read a book. A Prayer for Owen Meany is the worst kind of soggy, sentimental claptrap. It shares the same space in my mind as Cream of Wheat, late-night infomercials, and crying children on airplanes.
All of which have their place as irritants in our society.
And then the last review that I have for A Prayer for Owen Meany is, John Irving is John Irving's biggest fan.
I mean...
And as somebody who has reread that book since we read in high school, and you enjoy it.
I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to work something out for himself. Did these people have the same feelings about Hank Green's two books? Because he was definitely trying to work something out for himself with both of those.
It's like this one is one of those ones where it's kind of like, yeah, you either love it or you hate it, kind of. So at least where the people are coming from with their bad feelings, it's sort of like, okay, fine, you know.
The problem with the book is that he wrote it for people exactly like him, which you can't do and expect a lot of people to like it. And I think a lot of the people that have read it are exactly like him. They're vaguely religious or questioning religion, northern U.S. and or North American history people. You have to understand the setting. You have to understand Johnny's grandmother. You have to understand... there's so much that you have to understand. Guys, it's like listening to Steely Dan. That's all I'm going to say. Well, get ready for Libba Bray's A Great and Terrible Beauty.
Oh.
Nicole from 2009 says... that they recommend it for, in all caps, no one stay away, not worth your time.
Oh my.
I read this book because it's the kind of genre I usually enjoy. Victorian era fantasy. But the farther I got into this book, the more I wanted to say to the author, wait, what? When Gemma is sent to boarding school, she predictably is set upon by the school bullies. However, quite soon, Gemma becomes friends with these girls. Not because they're nice girls at heart. Parens, none of them ever had a shadow of morals or ethics, nor a sense of human decency, but because Gemma wants to be, all caps, accepted.
Okay.
Do tell me, Libba Bray, how is this a message that's good to send to teen girls? 5 question marks. The fantasy was absolutely horrid. The kind that is never truly explained. I was left confused and irritated at the end of the final scene, which I think was supposed to have moved me in some way. And finally, the whole book had a racy feel to it, like that left me feeling contaminated, like I just touched something slimy.
What does that mean?
Ick. I'm still shivering. I would have stopped reading, but I am cursed in that I always have to know what happens next. But at least the book wrapped itself up, so I'm not in the least bit tempted to read the new books. In conclusion, I would like to simply say this. If you are looking for likable characters, an original plot, and a clean story in general, then please, do yourself a favor. Do not read this book.
Wow. See, no, I don't agree with that one at all. I feel like that's a very common thing for someone to go into a group and want to be accepted in new, like she's literally moved from India to England. So she's in this brand new place. She's what, like 16? Classic age, you're trying to find the place where you fit in. And she ends up like becoming quite close with these girls. Like I think it's one of those things where they're being perceived a certain way, like you think you understand them, they think they understand you, and once they get to know each other better, they're not like horrible bullies. It's not like these girls have been bullying her for the whole book.
So would you say that they have a shadow of morals, ethics, or a sense of human decency?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. And I think it plays out in a very understandable way. Like I read those books originally when I was a teenager. I reread them when I was probably like 20. And it
was within, like the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I don't remember reading that and being like, oh God. So I don't think this person was just like, this book was not for them, and yeah, it was for me and it was not for you, okay? Okay.
Well, in 2015, we have someone who says that Gemma lives in India with her parents. When her mom suddenly died of a mysterious attack, her family sends her to England to be a proper lady. She meets a group of bitches, and they form this secret group to travel in another dimension. A shitload of gossip happens about here. Then, drama, drama, drama. Oh, look, a handsome young man. More drama. Oh, shit. Gemma meets her mother in the other world, and now she has to fight Cersei. Tiny little last twist here in the last 20 pages. Well, the end. Maybe I would have liked this a couple of years back, but I really didn't like it. The only thing I can possibly say that is special is that the setting is in India. I felt like I was there. That part was nice, but after that, the whole book went to shit with this humongous amount of capital letters, fluff, and drama, where this girl is rejected because she isn't of high class, or this other girl is cornered because she isn't pretty. Really? Where's the action in the book? Oh, right, it's in the last 20 pages. I feel like I've wasted so much of my time. And then, in asterisks, regrets.
Yeah, I feel like this book, because of when it was published, it was before the huge YA fantasy sweep went through, and this person's reading it after that has already been in full swing for a while, so they've probably read a lot of books like that.
Right, I mean, if you want action, you should check out Sarah J. Maas.
So with this book, yeah, you spend a lot more time getting to know the characters and their personalities and their relationships, and yes, it does build up to something very dramatic and intense at the end of the book, but if you are kind of used to a certain sort of
level of intensity.
Yeah, and have certain expectations about quality and everything. Like, I still really liked them, but I also don't really read this genre that much.
Right.
So, yeah, this person, I'm okay with their thoughts. First one, don't agree with them, but the second one, okay.
Let's see if we can break it with a third. This is Deb in 2007. Insipid ramblings from a first-person narrative that reads like a teenage girl's diary with occasional instances of dark insight that are
She's a teenager. It should read like a teenager's diary.
And delicious, but not enough to warrant picking up a copy of this. I thought I might enjoy this series since Libba Bray kept getting lumped together with 2 other YA authors that I am a fan of, Stephanie Meyer and Scott Westerfeld. Nada. It took forever for anything to happen in this book. There's no magic until 3/4 of the book is over. The cover is not at all representative of the contents, and it still seems like the plot has only progressed 1/3 of the way through the story when you reach the end. While the book is part of a series, opening books should have some sort of draw to them that makes you want to read more.
This is what the cover looks like. What does that make you think?
She is a Victorian lady who is getting undressed.
And you can't write a book just about that.
Nope.
I don't know. I want to know what that person thought was going to happen when they saw this.
I want to know what cover that person had. Maybe they had a different
They
cover.
could have had a different cover because there are multiple versions now for sure. But she's wearing a corset, like you can tell it's old times.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the red hair.
Old times.
Old times. You can tell, like, she's got Gemma because she's got the red hair and everything. Right. Yeah, like, I don't know. Insipid, though, that's a bit harsh. Like, come on.
Do you want the last one?
Sure.
From Betty in 2009. Have put down a saucer of milk, walked out, and shut the door to room 101.
What?
I don't know.
Wait, is that something in the book and I'm just missing that?
I don't know.
Wow.
I liked that she invoked a saucer of milk. Good imagery in one sentence.
Wow. Okay, last one for you. Got three reviews for this one, so short and sweet compared to some other ones. Anne of Green Gables.
Oh, I just listened to this year.
Oh, I know you did. This book was so dreadfully boring, I wanted to cry.
All right.
My cousin insisted on forcing me to watch the movie lots of times.
Which movie?
I don't know.
Be specific.
Gotta ask Renata.
If you're gonna hate on something, do it in a way that people understand.
Lots of times, so I decided to read the book. I couldn't get through it. I tried, but Anne just talked on and on for pages about nothing.
That's the whole point of Anne.
Just
literally the point.
Just not my type of book, I guess.
No, I guess
At least
not.
they said, I guess it's not my type of book, but...
No.
Yeah.
And you know what, I will say that the first time I tried to read Anne of Green Gables, I tried to read it in print and I couldn't do it. For that exact reason. She just goes on and on about nothing. And
But
it's a lot of
listening to the
metaphor and
audiobook
imagery, but the audiobook is excellent.
This person says, when Anne starts talking, usually a wall of text appears.
Yep.
Needlessly long, painfully boring, overly emotional, and with an abundance of irrelevant details.
Again, that's the whole point of her.
I don't have enough patience to read this book. Anne just keeps on talking and talking. And then talking again. She seems to be unable to think. She just talks.
Yes.
One of the most
13.
annoying characters ever. I'm not surprised that nobody wanted to keep her. I'm with Marilla when she says, "For pity's sake, hold your tongue."
Yes! Oh my god, you're just telling people the point of the book. The whole plot line is that Anne keeps talking, and it's about nothing in particular, and it annoys the hell out of everyone else around her.
And the final review for you. Anne's only character trait is being a naive idiot.
Yes! But also very nice.
Very nice.
And with a big imagination and a very big heart. These people have no sense of childlike wonder. Are you ready?
Yes. What's my last
Sarah's
one?
Key.
Here you go, folks.
Amy,
Sarah's Key,
in 2009, said, if I'm going to read hundreds of pages about the past horrifying situation that's set up at the beginning of this book, the writing's going to need to be more than subpar. Telling me that the characters are interesting and complex instead of self-indulgent and one-dimensional doesn't make it so. Don't tell me you actually drove me away from a Holocaust book, Rosnay. That's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
Filelander, life's too short to read this book, please.
Wow. No. I mean, they didn't, like, really call out anything super specific that I can counteract, but I did not think her writing was bad.
That they told her the characters are interesting and complex instead of self-indulgent and one-dimensional.
I don't agree with that. I mean, what's interesting is, like, Tatiana de Rosnay, she's French, like French-British, and she writes in French and English, so, like, this was her first English book, too. So, I don't know, maybe they just don't like her English writing.
Maybe. Well, Chris in 2011 says, completely unsatisfying. The storyline was mere sensationalism and flat morbidity in places, and in other places completely trivial and melodramatic. Made me think that the extent of the author's comment on the horrors of the Holocaust would be awful. Just awful.
Okay, but, like, what do you want her to say? Like, oh.
Yeah, we knew that. The Holocaust storyline interchanged with a modern detective narrative following a shallow journalist and her shallow relations as she researched a fairly dark time in the history of France. But the author seems to have no clue as to how lame her contemporary tale is next to the semi-historical fiction, which itself was botched by Rosnay's, okay, you've said her name wrong, industry to, quote, make the Holocaust bad. I was appalled at being engrossed in the agonies of oppressed Jewish children and then being tugged suddenly into the modern-day journalist calling her husband a tyrant. Every reader wants to say, no, Hitler was a tyrant. I was interested in the first 50 pages, but when I reached the middle of the book, I suddenly realized that the author might actually be as superficial as she sounded. It was awful. Just awful.
Wow. I feel like this person is offended by the fact that she was, like, trying to get into this deep, Holocaust plot line and then going back to modern day and just felt that the two of them didn't fit together.
Mix,
like this person was very clearly offended by that choice. But like that's a very common historical fiction thing to have, like the old plot line, the historical plot line, the modern day plot line. And like Sarah's Key ties it all together very nicely, and I was very like the bad stuff that happens in this book when the Nazis are coming to, you know, Paris, and they're rounding up everybody and shoving them into, you know, the location. I don't remember exactly where it was because I read this book a long time ago, but like in Paris. And like that whole thing is very intense, and like it broke me. Like it break me, but it was very emotional, and I was just like, shit, like, oh man, that's fucking sucks. Like the stuff that was happening to them, because, you know, even if it didn't happen exactly like that, stuff happened to people that were very similar to this. And so I found it very moving, and I think, did this person want something more like deep and analytical? I guess, but like
this is fiction.
Yeah, this is trying to take something and kind of fictionalize stuff that could have actually happened and probably did to some degree, right? You're just like following a fictionalized family. So,
well, let's see if Chrissy from 2008 agrees. No, she says, ugh, terrible. Okay, the only positive thing I can say is that the info that you learn about Veldiv is that there is so much other history covered up. Quote, no, we didn't do that. A very common sentence in history. The story about Sarah, who lived through this, is moving and interesting. However, it is interwoven with another story that takes place about 60 years later.
Yeah, so they don't like the back and forth.
This modern story is totally poor fiction, unless you like reading melodramatic soap operas, stupid romances, and about flat, stereotyped characters. Maybe I am glad to read it,
Whoa.
but the end was so bad that I cannot give it anything other than 1 star. The things that come out of the characters' mouths are so illogical. I finished this book before I went to bed and spent the entire night exploding over the stupidity. It's not that I didn't agree with what they said. It was that what they said did not make sense in relation to the previous dialogue and actions. So very, very trite. There is also a smart woman lawyer who can do anything and everything. There is a French husband playing around with his mistress. There's a teenage daughter who is, of course, so wise. There is no nuance to these characters. There is complaining. Oh, I miss Paris so much. Well, then don't move, as you've chosen to do. These are a few lines that make you chuckle over French culture, but that's about it. If you want to know more about Veldiv, look it up on Wikipedia. Okay, maybe read it if you like romance trash. There are better ways of learning about France's moral weakness and lack of conviction during World War II, and how they so easily succumbed to the Germans.
Wow. So this person just really hated the modern day storyline, it sounds like.
I guess
just
so.
what they were pulling for. Also, are they like hating on romance reads there?
Probably.
Because the first line I was like, okay, maybe they were saying they don't like poorly written romances, but then at the end they were saying like romance is basically trash.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean that's not great. Like you don't want to be like insulting an entire genre of book.
Oh, so girl, you lost sleep over this?
Yeah. It's not worth that. It's not worth that.
No,
I just clearly just found, I just really connected with this story more than these people. I mean, maybe if I reread it now, I wouldn't like it as much, but I loved it when I did read it. So, I don't know, they're just hating on the modern day plot line.
How dare they? And like you said, it's a very common thing.
Yeah, like tons of historical fictions are written like that, so I don't know. But what have we learned from this?
We've learned that everybody has their own opinion, and some of them are bad opinions.
My opinion of your opinion is that it's bad.
Yeah.
Some of them, though, you know, can't hate.
If you have any thoughts about our opinions of these people's opinions, which I can guarantee someone will have, please leave us a note in the comments. Anything you might want to know about us is in the description. As always, we thank you very much for watching, and that brings this video to a close.